Today I'm going to be chatting about how food, our diet, can actually help us deal with anxiety. I've got lots of people contacting me at the moment in my sort of role as a psychotherapist. I do specialise in anxiety, and people are really struggling because of what's going on around us. We feel it's really tough to sort of wonder just how to cope. A lot of mental health issues at the moment, and diet is one of those things that we can control. I focus very much upon the things that we can control and release those things, the concern over those things that we can't control, because they're eating away at our energy, and there's absolutely no point in expending energy on those things that we actually have no control over. So diet is something that we can easily control. And I just want to go over a few things today that are going to help you understand the anxiety, but also, the foods that you can be including in your diet in order to help you to alleviate your anxiety and to be a bit of a stress buster. So first and foremost, I think it just helps to explain what anxiety is and why it happens. We've always had this trigger. It's designed to keep us alive. Back in caveman days, the flight and fight response was there to help us stay safe. Right now, in modern days, in the sort of technological era, we're more likely to have anxiety over our work, anxiety over our pay, anxiety over our children, their safety. Not to say that cavemen didn't worry about their kids, but our ancestors were very much more active than the majority of us are, and they had a healthy way of getting rid of those stress hormones. They still had stress hormones because every time they went out to hunt for food, they were potentially going to be at risk of being somebody else's dinner, or something else's dinner. And so, but by them running away from it or fighting, they got rid of those stress hormones. We don't do that anymore. And those stress hormones, they don't define whether it's like a saber-toothed tiger or whether it's an angry boss trying to make you do something for a very tight deadline. So stress still makes the same stress hormones come out. And so I think it's important to understand that. That's like, if you get butterflies in your stomach, that's because the fight and flight response makes the blood from our brains, from our digestive system, from our sexual organs move into our primary muscles so that we can run or fight effectively. So you'll find that when your adrenaline spikes, even if you feel like you're a really slow runner, you're going to shoot out of the block because you've had that spike of adrenaline that's helping you charge forward. But of course, we have these stress hormones and we don't do anything with it. It's just like it sits in our system, and stress is cumulative. So it's really important that you have effective ways to get rid of that. I do workouts. I find that is my really good way of getting rid of chronic stress. But there are things that we can do with our diet as well to complement a fairly healthy, balanced life. And that's what I'm going to be focusing on now. So essentially, there are a range of things that we can be eating. Gut health is incredibly important when it comes to managing stress and anxiety effectively. Now, we have a whole microbiota. It's its own organism living within our gut, and that's called healthy bacteria. We also have bad bacteria, and sort of a healthy, balanced life is going to make sure that you've got more of the healthy bacteria than of the bad bacteria. If you've ever had a course of antibiotics, you should definitely focus on eating more probiotics, getting more probiotics into your diet, because antibiotics tend to kill everything, both the good and the bad bacteria. So you need to make sure that you're repopulating with the healthy bacteria in your gut after you've had a course of antibiotics. But diet really can make a big difference. And you want to be focusing on things that contain lots of B vitamins. So, like folic acid, that's B9. That sort of helps us deal with depressive moods. That combined with, say, B9 and B12 help us to cope with depressive moods. Magnesium will help you deal with, that's like our calming mineral. And by eating like a lot of leafy vegetables, nuts and seeds, legumes, those sorts of things, you're going to be getting an adequate amount of magnesium. Some people say also combine it with calcium, because magnesium and calcium together are also very effective at helping us cope with stress and anxiety. And also, just before I sort of go into the various components that are going to help you, you know, when we are under chronic stress, it really affects our immune system. And so that's when you're having the prolonged colds, you can't, you know, you seem to go from one to the other. It's because that long-term chronic stress does break down your immune system. It also negatively affects how the bacteria are living in your gut, which then means that you're not able to make the neurotransmitters, which are the things that we term as happy hormones, to such a degree. So for instance, like, so B1 helps us to regulate our blood sugars, and blood sugars are very much tied into helping us deal with anxiety and deal with long-term stress. B3 helps us with our serotonin, and serotonin is the precursor to melatonin, which is our sleep hormone. So you might have heard of serotonin as our feel-good, one of our feel-good hormones. It absolutely is, and we want to be making sure that we're getting adequate daylight, because that helps boost our serotonin, but we can also get that through B3 and just a healthy balanced diet, to be quite honest. Vitamin B5 helps us with our adrenal glands, and of course our adrenal glands are very much engaged when we're under long-term stress or anxiety. I'm sort of using it, stress and anxiety, interchangeably here. And so, you know, nutritional yeast, for instance, is a great source of B vitamins. If you're vegan, you're probably going to be eating loads of nutritional yeast already. I'm not vegan, but I love it. I just dip the spoon in and gobble up the flakes. But you can take a, you know, a multi-purpose, multi-B vitamin, which is going to cover all of those sort of areas, those aspects. But through our diet, I mean, it is things like eating more vegetables. Vegetables are also what we call a prebiotic. So prebiotics feed the probiotics, which is the healthy bacteria in our gut. So that's why it's really important, one of the reasons why it's really important to eat plenty of vegetables. Ideally aim for 3 portions of vegetables, 3 meals, including vegetables throughout the day. So you're looking at sort of 5 to 6 portions of vegetables throughout the day. I have a daily shake, and I actually blend up frozen vegetables in that, just to make sure that I'm getting an extra veggie component throughout the day. So it's really important, as these prebiotics, yacon root, I'm just trying to think of some of the other ones off the top of my head, but prebiotics are incredibly important for us to maintain healthy gut flora. Probiotics are healthy gut flora, but things like sauerkraut, fermented foods, so sauerkraut, kimchi, kombucha, kefir, those sorts of things are going to be helping you build the healthy bacteria. Also, it's really important to make sure you're avoiding things like artificial sweeteners, because they sort of undo the good that your diet is otherwise having on your microbiota inside of the gut. And Bacillus coagulans is another very good probiotic. You get it in some live yogurts. It does survive the tract, the sort of the journey from the mouth through the digestive system to the bowel, the large intestine, which is where the probiotics do their work. So you'll find that, check out what probiotics those yogurts and those live yogurt drinks have got in them, because they're quite expensive, and quite a lot of them actually don't do the job they're supposed to do. They do contain live bacteria, but you need to make sure that it actually survives the trip through the digestive system. So, you know, just maybe see what the live bacteria is that you've got in your particular product that you use. Google it and make sure that it is one that survives that trip, because that's important. But Bacillus coagulans, or bacillus, some people say coagulans, does survive that trip, and that's when it gets to the bowel, the large intestine, and that's where probiotics do their work. So it's really important that you have a good supply of prebiotics which feed the probiotics, the healthy bacteria in the gut. Also, just on top of that, things like daylight. I mean, it's such an easy one for us to get. It's free. It helps us synthesize vitamin D. Vitamin D is good for our overall health on so many levels, but also incredibly important for our mental health. You can see sad lamps out there on the internet to buy. I haven't bought one, but apparently they do work really, really well. I think you just sit in front of it for sort of 20 to 30 minutes a day, and it helps you, it sort of increases the natural amount of vitamin D that your body is creating. So I have got a few notes here, and I just want to make sure that I'm sort of going through everything. Oh, and yeah, I just wanted to sort of, with prebiotics, because things like artichokes, garlic, onions, spring onions, Savoy cabbage, shallots, those are all really good prebiotics. So, you know, if you eat a lot of things like that, you're already feeding the healthy bacteria in your gut. Baked beans, bananas, watermelon, grapefruit are also really good sources of prebiotics. And then this one's more tricky, particularly as we are in lockdown at the moment, is avoiding environmental stressors. Now, that might involve toxic people. And again, it's about focusing on what you can. I know this isn't specifically diet, but I just want to add this very quickly. You can't necessarily remove those toxic people from your environment, but it's really important that you create boundaries that you maintain, however you're able to maintain those boundaries, not involving a hammer, a wooden mallet, although I know it's tempting. But things like meditation are going to really help you. Things like exercise, things like yoga, again, walking outside in nature if you're able to get out. Those sorts of things are going to help you. Always remember, you can't really affect how other people behave, but you really can affect how you let it affect you. So you do have some control to a degree as to how much you let them niggle away at you. So do consider that. But by incorporating healthier foods into your diet that are particularly high in the B vitamins, the magnesium, so the leafy greens, the legumes, some cereals, getting outdoors, healthy probiotics and prebiotics, those will help. And then finally, adaptogen herbs. Now, these are like little magic things. I have adaptogen herbs every single day. Adaptogens are specifically that they are plants. They grow above the vegetation line in places like Peru. Very, very harsh conditions that they grow in, and as a result, they are adaptogenic, and they actually have an impact on our stress hormones and our other hormones. So, as a menopausal woman, I find they really help me with my menopausal symptoms. But specifically with stress and anxiety, if in most cases, most of us have got too much cortisol in our bodies, you know, our adrenal glands are constantly firing, and we need to reduce the amount of cortisol that's circulating in our bodies, and the adaptogen herbs will actually help you do that. But in some instances, say in the case of adrenal fatigue, where you've been under long-term stress and your adrenal glands have literally just worn out, they've given up the ghost, in that instance, the adaptogen herbs will actually help lift the amount of cortisol. They'll help that, although you're running out of cortisol, they will actually help boost what you've got. So they are incredibly powerful herbs. I absolutely swear by them. The ones I take, if I can remember them off the top of my head, there's reishi, maytake, schisandra, astragalus, maca, chaga, and cordyceps and ashwagandha. You'll see quite a lot of written about ashwagandha. I mean, I suppose if you were going to take just one of those, that's probably the one to go for. But they do help us adapt to our environment and deal with stress in a more effective way. So just bear that in mind. So essentially, it's a good selection of B vitamins to support you on the whole. Vitamin D. You can also, vitamin D, I was having a look at this because I've always heard that mushrooms are quite high in vitamin D. I live on mushrooms, I adore them. But they are really the only plant source that's relatively high in vitamin D. Otherwise, you're looking at liver, red meat, that sort of thing. So and was it bone broth? Those that has vitamin D and quite high amounts of vitamin D in it too. But your ultraviolet light is a free source of it. So maybe, you know, if you struggle with those sorts of foods and you don't like mushrooms, just make sure you're getting outside. And in some instances, it might mean that you need to have a vitamin D supplement through the winter months, particularly if you live somewhere like I do right now, which is very, very cloudy and rainy and there isn't much sunshine. So you will, you know, at this time of the year, I have to admit, I hate it. I'm a real summer person. I do like getting wrapped up and going outside in the cold air for a brisk walk, but oh no, bring the summer on any day, and I feel so much more alive in the summer. This time of the year, I feel old, I feel frumpy, I feel ugly, I feel bleh. It's just, and that's probably a lack of vitamin D. You know, just because we're not outside doing the things that make us feel more alive and vibrant. So I hope that's helped, but just, you know, just beware. The things to really avoid are artificial sweeteners and a lot of sugars, because they play havoc with our gut flora. Alcohol as well, to a degree. I'm not going to tell you to stop drinking if you enjoy a glass of wine or beer at the end of the day, because right now I could drink a bottle, although I am teetotal at the moment because I'm doing a 9-week program and I've committed to it. So yeah, I hope that's helped. Any questions, obviously, please just send me a message and I will get back to you. If you've got anybody that you know that is struggling with anxiety or stress, maybe share this with them. It might just be enough to prompt them to buy the right foods, eat the right stuff, get more time outside. I know for me, sometimes if the same person says the same thing over and over again, it's just like, deaf, can't be bothered to listen. But if somebody else says it, maybe it, you know, sometimes it has more of an effect. So I hope this has been helpful, and thanks for listening, and catch you soon.